All right, good evening. Chris Fry in the 19 News Digital Studios on this Thursday evening, continuing our Justice for Julian coverage, day 4 of the trial. If we want to get you caught up to speed on exactly what happened, if you're unfamiliar with the case of this riveting trial, and it really kind of goes into detail, a lot of emotional testimony from this trial. So Julian Wood and his mother Margot were stabbed in a North Olmsted Giant Eagle parking lot of June of 2024. The woman who did it, Bionca Ellis, is on trial for aggravated murder and murder. Now, her own defense isn't arguing that she is responsible for the death of the 3-year-old. They have told the jury that's not what this case is all about. The only question for the jury, if Ellis was insane when she did it. So today, the last witness for the prosecution was Cuyahoga County Deputy Medical Examiner Dr. Elizabeth Mooney. Now, we want to warn you on this testimony. It is graphic. It really details how deadly this incident was when Julian was stabbed in the cheek and in the back. Want to warn you again, a lot of medical information coming out from this Deputy Medical Examiner, but it is tough to hear. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Elizabeth Mooney, it's spelled Mooney.
Thank you. You may inquire. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, by whom are you employed?
By Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office.
And how long have you so been employed by them?
Almost 9 years now.
What is your present title at the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office?
I'm a Deputy Medical Examiner or Forensic Pathologist.
And in those 9 years, can you just briefly explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what kind of education and training you've had in order for you to maintain your position?
We begin by going to undergrad, so I received my undergraduate degree in biology and biomedical sciences. After that, I obtained my master's degree in forensics, which was a 2-year program in Philadelphia. Following that, I went to medical school for 4 years in Kansas City to receive my doctorate degree. Following that, I attended Cleveland Clinic pathology residency program for 4 years, where I was certified in anatomic and clinical pathology. And then following that, I received my forensic pathology training and fellowship in Baltimore for the state of Maryland.
And ma'am, are you a dually licensed physician in the state of Ohio?
Yes, I'm licensed in anatomic, clinical, and then forensic pathology.
And ma'am, with regards to board certifications, are you board certified in the various fields?
The same, yes.
All right. And just briefly, what does board certification mean in a particular area?
Once you choose an area of medicine to practice and you complete your training, you have to take a board certification exam so that you're competent in that education and that process. So I took exams on each of those 3 subjects. Each one is a day-long process.
And Dr. Mooney, in addition to that, do you also teach pathology or forensic pathology here in the Cleveland area?
Yes, we train all of the upcoming medical students, residents at the surrounding programs in our facility in forensics.
And do you also research and publish?
Yes, occasionally.
And ma'am, have you done that in the past 9 years?
In the past, yes.
And also, ma'am, have you also testified in court and been deemed an expert in forensic pathology?
I have.
And about how many times?
I believe this is number 70.
And in those 70 times, have they been various courts here in this area?
Yes.
Now, Dr. Mooney, were you so employed by the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office back in June 3rd of 2024?
Yes.
And ma'am, before we talk about the initial autopsy that you did in this matter, please explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what pathology is, what forensic pathology is, and what brings us then here today.
Pathology is the study of disease, so kind of behind the scenes medicine, where we study disease processes. We are trained in diagnosing that with microscopes and with autopsy on individuals. So we are trained in anatomic and clinical pathology, and that's what that is. When we talk about forensic pathology, we're applying that matter to legal proceedings. So we then encompass any injury as well as natural disease in examining a body and using that to obtain a cause and manner of death.
And ma'am, how many causes can there be for death?
Many.
And can you give us some examples of some of the causes?
A cause of death is basically the underlying disease process that causes someone to die. So it's the initial insults or underlying disease process. So it can be hypertensive heart disease, or it can be trauma such as blunt force injuries or sharp force injuries, gunshot wounds, things like that.
And then are there a distinguishing amount of manners of death?
There's 5 manners of death, and manners of death are the classification regarding the circumstances surrounding death. So we issue a death certificate that states the cause of death, but also the manner of death. And the 5 include natural, suicide, accidental, homicide, and in some cases undetermined.
And can you define those for us?
Homicide is death at the hands of another person. Suicide would be death at the hands of yourself with the intention of doing so. Accidental deaths is, as it sounds, unintentional, but traumatic in nature. Natural is just natural disease process taking its course without any intervening non-natural causes. And undetermined is a category that we use when we do not know the circumstances surrounding death.
So, doctor, is it fair to say that as a forensic pathologist, when you receive a body into the medical bay at the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office, you are looking to determine what caused this person's death?
Correct.
And that you do external examinations and then internal examinations, and that, for lack of a better term, the body talks to you and tells you what happened to it
Essentially, yes.
with regards to the physicalities and your observations of that.
Yes.
So, doctor, you were employed at the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office on June 3rd of 2024. Did you have the occasion to become involved in the autopsy of a Julian Wood?
Yes.
And in addition to Julian, but for all your autopsies, ma'am, do you have a protocol that is generated by you, signed also by the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner, Tom Gilson, that incorporates all of your examinations and your findings as to the death of Julian Wood?
Yes, it is a report that I generate following my examination.
And in addition to that, you also have toxicology results that also are you ask for them to be examined, and then you evaluate them as part and parcel of your autopsy report.
Yes.
And in addition to that, you also cause pictures to be taken of the individual, the decedent, that is brought into the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office.
Yes.
All right. Why do we take photographs, doctor? What is the purpose?
Some of it is to memorialize our findings. That also happens within our report. But with photographs, sometimes it's to document therapy, injuries, if there's any evidence on the body that would be removed after or during examination or prior to. These are photographs that we take. We also take these photographs in order to present them in court should that need to happen.
And doctor, did you do all those things in this case?
Yes.
Did you have a report prepared that is signed by you and signed by Dr. Gilson?
Yes.
Did you have toxicology results that you reviewed, examined, and made part of your report?
Yes.
And did you have photographs taken with regards to the autopsy of Julian Wood?
Yes.
All right.
to 112 as I agreed to?
Yes.
Okay.
These are everything that, just so you know. Thank you, Your Honor.
Welcome.
Doctor, handing you has been previously marked and shown to defense counsel, Courts Exhibit 100, 101, 102, and then States Exhibit 103 to 112.
Let me know when you reviewed them.
I've reviewed them.
Thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Starting with States Exhibit 100, can you tell us what that is, ma'am?
This is a document generated by our office. It's called the medical examiner's verdict. It has the assigned case number to the individual for that autopsy or for that examination. And then it goes on to explain some of the demographic information about the decedent and the circumstances that led up to the death. It's generated by our secretarial staff in order for our chief medical examiner to review, as well as the cause and manner of death at the end, so that he is reviewing all of the cases within the office.
All right, and at the very end of this document, there is a cause of death. And who made that determination?
Myself.
All right, and the manner of death.
Myself.
And then at the very end is your signature, oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Gilson's signature.
Correct.
And why is his signature there?
He will review all of the medical examiner's verdicts from all of the forensic pathologists in the office and will sign off on those verdicts.
And those become part and parcel of the original file at the medical examiner's office?
Correct.
All right, so moving on to States Exhibit 101. What is States Exhibit 101?
This is the report of autopsy for the case on Julian Wood. It's the anatomic diagnosis that I wrote following the examination, which lists the cause and manner of death and the specifics of those injuries.
So, and we're going to talk about those, but again, this is a document now that you yourself signed.
Correct.
Again, indicating the cause and the manner of death. And then you go into gross anatomic descriptions. And what else do we find in here?
The gross anatomic description will goes through all of the external examinations. So air color, eye color, any therapy that was involved in resuscitation attempts. And then it describes all of the injuries that I found on the decedent. Following the external examination, it lists everything internally with regard to any natural disease or injury processes within the body itself.
So, Doctor, we're going to talk about that. We're going to you're going to take that off the screen. We're not going to look. You're going to explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury your examination of when this child first decedent was brought in, the condition they were brought in, and then how then do you methodically do your examination.
Okay.
Okay? Do you want to use the photographs in conjunction with that?
Whatever you prefer.
It's your, whatever your pleasure is, Doctor.
We can proceed with the photos.
The photos? Okay. All right. So States Exhibit 103. What are we looking at in States Exhibit 103?
When the decedent is brought into the office, the first thing that we do is take an overall photograph of how we received the decedent. So in a secured transport bag with a number attached to the case. In this case, it's IN 24-839. This is an identifier for that decedent, so that number should be associated with anything we do with this decedent. So this is a photograph of that initial intake.
State's Exhibit 104.
Once the seal has been broken for chain of custody on the transport bag, we take another photograph of how we received the decedent. So here, this is just an overall photograph of how he was received. Medical therapy is left in place by the hospital. If it's a medical examiner's case, once a death has been ruled or pronounced deceased, it's kind of all hands off. So they will leave everything in place that they use for resuscitation measures. The hands are bagged in this instance in case there's any evidence that needs to be preserved that will be collected at our office prior to examination.
All right. State's Exhibit 105.
After the decedent is taken into our office, one of the first things, depending on the case, will be he goes to or she goes to our trace evidence department. They will take the bags off the hands. They will take any evidence that they might need. And then once that is completed, the autopsy essentially begins at that point. When I do the autopsy, I document all of the therapy that was on the decedent so that there's no way for me to not recognize something that's done by the hospital versus actual injury. So once that has occurred, we remove all of that therapy and we clean the body in order to look at all of the injuries and all of the therapeutic marks again.
State's Exhibit 106.
After documenting all the therapeutic marks or injuries, I turn then to inflicted injuries, not by the hospital. So the first injury that I note is a stab wound to the left side of the decedent's face. And this is depicted here in the photograph.
I'm sorry.
Depicted here in the photograph.
Okay. State's Exhibit 107.
This is a close-up photograph of that wound, just reapproximated. So I will try to reapproximate the edges of the wound to show if there's a sharp edge or a blunt edge, or if there's any characteristics to the weapon that I might be able to see, which here, as you can see on the right side, that margin or edge looks more kind of squared off, and the left side is more pointed. So I can tell it's a single edge instrument that was used to inflict the injury. After taking these photographs, we do look internally to see what is damaged. So with the instance of the stab wound to the cheek, it did go through the mandible, the bone of the jaw on that left side. After it passed through the bone of the jaw, it transected a branch of the carotid artery. So there's the artery that you can feel your pulse. It's quite a large artery. It splits into two portions, and one of those portions was severed. The stab wound continued to go back behind the airway and behind kind of the oral cavity and downward, and nicked the right side of the cervical vertebrae, or the neck spinal column. It didn't hurt the spinal cord, but there was a lot of bleeding in the airway and throughout that wound path.
And doctor, therefore, that would cause a lot of bleeding that would come then from the mouth.
Yes, that's massive hemorrhage. It's also causing blood to go into the airway, and so there's a lot of breathing in of blood. So not necessarily ability to get air into the lungs, but just blood into the air, or blood into the airways.
Thank you. State's Exhibit 108.
This is the second injury and other stab wound that I documented. So he has a stab wound to the upper left side of his back.
And did you examine this stab wound?
I did.
A close-up of this neck?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 109.
This is just a closer version of that, or closer photograph of that wound. And there's another photograph that's even closer still.
All right, State's Exhibit 110.
And this is just another example of me reapproximating that wound with a sharp margin or edge and a more squared off and kind of bruised end on the other side. This injury passes behind the scapula, but into the chest cavity. It goes through the third and fourth rib in the back on the left side, and then it punctures the left lung. So it extends deep enough that it goes through the large artery that's giving blood to the lung. And so there was quite a bit of blood that will then go into the chest cavity. So in addition to inhaling blood and not being able to breathe that way, there's blood that fills up that chest cavity. I always kind of describe it as trying to blow up a balloon underwater. There's just too much tension on that and it collapses the lung. So there's not a way to breathe.
States Exhibit 111.
This is a photograph of the left lung once I removed it. So this is the wound that goes through the lung itself and into that artery.
And with regards to States Exhibit 111, what is the depth of that incision?
Both of the stab wounds, the one to the cheek and to the back, are both 4 inches deep.
States Exhibit 112.
This is an overall photograph of the lower extremities of the decedent. We also document anything else that looks like injury. So that includes any superficial scratches or bruises. So this is just a photograph of the overall lower extremities where there are kind of scattered bruises, including like a linear or angled, slightly linear contusion or bruise over that right thigh. There's also a defect. No, that's a defect in the right groin. That's from therapy. So, yes.
Is this what you're talking about, the bruising?
That's one bruise, yes. There's also one higher up on the leg, too. Yes, correct. And there's
Any other bruises that you want me to point out?
there's just a couple more on the lower extremities, yeah.
And then going back to that.
That is therapy related. So with these types of injuries, I make sure that there's additional efforts to try to get a vascular source in that inguinal region to give fluids, IV fluids. And so there was puncture sites there. And if they can't get access, sometimes they will cut the skin there to try to get access to a vein or artery to give fluids. So that's therapy related. It's also not in the clothing, and it's superficial.
And ma'am, that is for purposes of medical intervention.
Yes, ma'am.
That is not an additional stab wound.
Correct.
All right. And doctor, I believe those are the extent of our photographs. So let's talk about, so you've done your external examination and you have located the stab wounds, which you have described to us. Then what then do you go on and do with regards to your further examination of this body before making your conclusions?
I look at all of the organs, whether or not they're injured or not. So I look at all of the other chest organs, neck organs, abdominal, pelvic, as well as the brain. And I document any additional findings. And then I generate a report to summarize all of them.
And did you do that here?
I did.
And what were your findings with regards to your internal examination?
Exactly what I mentioned before. So aside from being a healthy young boy, he had injuries to the upper airway and neck, as well as the chest and lung, and bleeding internally from those.
And doctor, did you also examine States Exhibit 102?
Yes.
And what is it, identify States Exhibit 102 for the jury, and what did you do with that?
This is a final toxicology report that's generated for myself following the autopsy. During the course of the autopsy, we take samples of body fluids or tissues and submit them for toxicology testing. It's routine for us to test these in cases and to have a report be generated by our toxicology lab to show if there's any drugs or alcohol within that decedent.
And what were your findings with regards to State's Exhibit 102?
There was no drugs or alcohol found. It was negative.
All right. And doctor, other than what you have testified to, is there anything else encompassed in your report that you used or you considered in making your findings with regards to the cause and the manner of death?
No.
All right. And doctor, based on a reasonable degree of medical certainty, have you formed an expert opinion concerning the cause of death of Julian Woods?
Yes.
And what is that cause of death?
Stab wounds of the face and back.
And with regards to the manner of death, based on a reasonable degree of medical certainty, have you determined what the manner of death was?
Yes.
And what is the manner of death?
Homicide. Dr. Elizabeth.
All right, that was the prosecution and their witness testifying, Deputy Medical Examiner for Cuyahoga County, Dr. Elizabeth Mooney. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Coming up afterwards, the defense, the state rested its case after that, by the way. So we're going to hear more testimony dealing with a psychologist dealing with Bionca Ellis's mental state during this incident. Let's take a quick break. We'll hear testimony from that next. Welcome back. Chris Fry in the 19 News Digital Studios, and we recap day 4 of the Bionca Ellis murder trial and the death of Julian Wood. Let's get back to more testimony right now. So after lunch, the defense coming up with its testimony, they brought a doctor who was assigned to the court to evaluate all of the mental health diagnoses and treatment that Bionca Ellis had over the past 10 years. This testimony is from a mental health expert, once again describing the mental health of one Bionca Ellis. Let's listen in.
As a standard part of a competency evaluation, we will review any prior competency evaluations. So Ms. Ellis had been evaluated twice for competence prior to being referred to North Coast for what's called a 20-day inpatient competency evaluation. So when I was doing the 20-day evaluation, I reviewed both of those competency evaluations.
Okay. Before interviewing Ms. Ellis, you informed her that you were conducting a forensic evaluation and not providing treatment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you explain to her whether or not this is done in confidentiality?
Yes. So typically when you see a psychiatrist, it's private. That's sort of the whole point. You want it to be private. You want to say whatever you need to say. With a forensic evaluation, you do not have privacy. So I did inform Ms. Ellis, I will not be your treating psychiatrist. You and I will not be a patient and a doctor. I'm assigned to evaluate an issue for the court. That's the extent of our relationship, and anything you tell me can be included in this report.
Okay. And did she have a response when you communicated that to her?
When I saw her in September, in August, for the September report, she did have a response. Her response, in part, was bizarre. She asked me about Jesus Christ and where he was crucified, and she made some other bizarre statements about Matthew and Jesus and taxes. I did repeat to her, explaining the purpose of my evaluation, and explained non-confidentiality and asked her if she was willing to proceed with the interview, and she did shake her head yes, that she had understanding and agreed to proceed.
Okay. Doctor, based on your review, Ms. Ellis has a long history of severe mental illness dating back to at least 2014. Is that correct?
That's correct. There are records from a community mental health center. It's called Murtis Taylor. They specialize in treatment of severe and persistent mental illness. She has been a client with them since November of 2014. So, and typically, individuals with mental illness don't necessarily get treatment when they first develop symptoms. Sometimes it takes a minute. So I would say definitely she had that illness in November 2014, but probably before.
All right. So she's been diagnosed with schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder in multiple hospital settings?
That's correct. The Cleveland Clinic records show that she was admitted at Lutheran and Marymount and diagnosed there. And then she had a referral to another hospital by Metro Health and was diagnosed there as well.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors what are the symptoms of schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder? What is that?
Yes. Schizophrenia is what we call a thought disorder. So with schizophrenia, the mind breaks from reality. The word schizophrenia means split mind. It's not to mean split personalities. It's that the mind itself is splitting from reality. So the symptoms that you'll have is your thoughts are not with reality anymore. People will believe things that aren't true. They have delusions, which is a fixed false belief. You cannot convince the person otherwise. That thinking is coming from the same part of the brain that produces real thought. So it feels like any of us would feel about something that we know is true. People will also have hallucinations with a diagnosis of schizophrenia. That means that their senses are firing when there's not something real there. Most common in schizophrenia, people will hear voices, comes in through your ears. It's coming from that same lobe of the brain where real hearing comes from, so it sounds very real. People will also see visions is pretty common in schizophrenia. Disorganization of thinking. Thoughts become really jumbled. So people will go from one thought to the next, and the associations between those thoughts we call them loose. It's like you can't really follow it. You can't follow what they're saying. People will have disorganized behavior as well. Their behavior, you watch it and it makes no sense why they're kind of engaging in the behavior that they're engaging in. There is cognitive deficits as well in schizophrenia. There's some affective symptoms that you'll see. There's a blunted affect, so they don't show the normal range of expression that we would expect an individual to show. So that expression is blunted. The expression can also be very inappropriate. So people can smile and laugh for no reason, frown for no reason. The affect is really not matching the emotional expression that they're having. It's not matching what's going on in the environment. That's typical of schizophrenia. Schizoaffective disorder, what that is schizophrenia with an affective or a mood component. So people will have schizophrenia, they'll meet criteria for schizophrenia, and they will also have mood disorder as well, be it bipolar disorder with mania and depression or depressive disorder with just depression.
Okay. Let me ask you this. In September of 2024, did you generate a report identifying your involvement in this case?
Yes.
And did you opine certain things?
I did.
Okay. And did you do the same in February of 2025?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibits I, which is the September 2024 report, September 3rd. And then the February 3rd, 2025 report is going to be identified as Defendant's Exhibit H. Yeah, may I approach?
You may. September 3rd.
Can you take a look at those and identify those? Look at H first. Which report is that? Is it the February report?
Yes, sir. H is a February report, and this is the report that I authored at North Coast Behavioral.
Okay. And then I is the September 2024 report.
Yes, that's correct. This is my initial report, the September report. There is also a second report here as well. That's because there was a forced medication order requested,
Okay.
so that is also attached here.
Okay, thank you. I want to get back to what you were discussing about the symptoms. You talked about the symptoms of schizophrenia. As a result of your involvement, did you learn whether or not Ms. Ellis had been hospitalized?
Yes, I did. In the information that I had available to me to review, there was evidence of 4 psychiatric hospitalizations. I'm going to refer to my report so that I can give you accurate information about those.
Which report are you referring to?
The initial September 3rd report.
Okay,
And then what page?
which page?
If we go to page 5.
Thank you.
Okay. So the review of records that I did, this was records that were summarized in Dr. Hatters-Friedman's competency report. Those records showed that she was hospitalized in November of 2015. At that time, she was taken to the emergency department at Lutheran Hospital. Her mother had taken her there because she was not taking medications at the time. She had not slept for 5 days. She was hearing voices. She was expressing suicidal thoughts. She was experiencing these voices raping her and wanting to impregnate her. She thought there was a prophet involved. She was admitted to psychiatry at that time, and she was stabilized on. And
So if we're reading it all, if you would just read slowly for the court.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
She was treated with a combination of antipsychotic and mood stabilizing medications, and she was stabilized through that hospitalization. It was a 5-day hospitalization. Is that better? That's good? Okay.
We all do that. We all read faster anyway, so I just want to make sure Rob gets
I
it.
speak quickly too, so slow me
Yes.
down at any time.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. And again, on
Would be fair-
page,
I'm sorry, I'm just going to sort of cut to it.
yes,
From November 2015
yes,
and December 2015, February 2016, October 2018, up to June of 2021, do you know if she was hospitalized further?
yes, 3 additional hospitalizations
Okay,
due to presenting to the emergency room off medications.
okay. And then in September of 2023, on page 6 of 14,
Yes.
was she hospitalized again?
Can you repeat the date?
September 2023,
Yes,
okay? And can you tell us about that?
yes. She had been taken to the Fairview Emergency Department. She had called 911 at that time. She stated that she didn't feel safe. She had been out of medications for about a month. She was unable to obtain refills in the community. She was seeing visions of people coming out of her walls to try to kill her at night. She was talking about Albert Einstein and a bowl of ants. She had been able to sleep. This record stated that she was visibly hallucinating at that time. They admitted her to Marymount Hospital, and she required an 11-day hospitalization and was stabilized on antipsychotic medication at that time.
Okay. Then it looks like, again, in October 2023, there was some issue with her medications, is that correct?
That's correct. She had run out of the medications that she received through hospitalization and was hearing voices. The voices were telling her to kill herself. She developed some suicidal thinking. She had cut her arm with a razor. She was taken to the emergency room. She, in the emergency room, was talking about paranoia of food. She hadn't been eating. She was also talking about seeing visions of whales and fish, voices telling her to go to war. She was talking about martial law, airborne disease, disorganized thinking was noted in the medical record. She was hospitalized and stabilized again on antipsychotic medication. It was a 7-day hospitalization.
Let me take you into 2024. In February 2024,
Yes,
was she again at the hospital?
she was.
Tell us about that.
Yes. She was pink slipped at that time. What that is that's like an emergency order that police can write stating that someone should be evaluated in an emergency room due to a mental health crisis. So
I'll jump in again. So just,
Slow you down.
yeah, just, you know you're fast too, so I want to make sure Rob's able to do it. I know he's going at a high rate with you, so
yes,
I'll just ask you to be mindful, if you can, of just slowing down.
yes.
Okay. So go ahead, your question again was about that last hospitalization?
Yeah, in February 2024, was she hospitalized again?
Yes, she was.
Okay, tell us about that.
She had been taken to an emergency room by police. They had ordered that she be admitted, evaluated in the emergency room. So when she got to the emergency room, police told the professionals there that she had called and asked to be arrested for murder and conspiracy. There was no evidence for arrest for that. She was agitated in the emergency room. She was engaging in threatening behavior, bizarre behavior, screaming. She threatened self-harm. She was evaluated and stated to be hallucinating. She had delusional beliefs, talking about the murder of El Chapo, and she was hearing voices of mafia individuals talking, and she was recommended for hospitalization, noted to have acute decompensation of chronic psychotic disorder. They evaluated her and they set for a transfer to an outside hospital. There were no beds at Metro.
All right. Let me take you to the date of the incident.
Yes.
June 6th of 2024, while Ms. Ellis was in jail, do you know if she was evaluated by a psychiatrist? And I'm referring to the top of page 7 of 14.
Yes. So she was jailed in the Cuyahoga County Jail shortly after the offense, and that was on June 6th. She saw the psychiatrist who works in the jail. His name is Dr. Baskin, and he evaluated her. He noted that she was limited in her willingness to engage with him. She spoke to him in a curt manner. He described her as being bizarre in many of her answers, disjointed, and paranoid. And he, on that day, he diagnosed her with schizoaffective disorder, and he prescribed her Haldol, an antipsychotic medication, and he prescribed Cogentin for side effects, but she refused to take the medication. She said it was unnecessary and did not take it.
So let me stop you there. I misspoke. That's not the date of the incident. It's 3 days after the incident.
Correct.
Is that when she met Dr. Baskin in the
That's
county jail?
correct.
Okay. Ms. Ellis also was seen by a Ms. Stevenson, a social worker. Can you tell us the observations that were part of your evaluation?
Yes. So Ms. Stevenson, she's a social worker who works in the Cuyahoga County Jail. She noted that Ms. Ellis was seen sitting on the floor in her jail cell with no clothes on whatsoever. She was fixated on an investigation. She was eating her food with her hands instead of the silverware. She was making illogical statements, talking about dinosaurs, things that made no sense.
Okay. I want to take you back to the questions that we were discussing before we got into your report. And there's some history of non-compliance with her medication, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And is that something that's typical with this population? And when I say this population, I'm talking about people who suffer from psychosis, schizophrenia, and other disorders?
Yes, it's typical. It's estimated that about 50% of people with schizophrenia are non-compliant with medications at some point in time. So it's very typical.
All right, that is testimony right now from a mental health doctor talking about the mind state of Bionca Ellis over the last decade or so. So the defense, that was their witness. The state had rested its case earlier today, so the defense will continue tomorrow. At least two more witnesses, one of which is Bionca Ellis's mother, who will testify about the longstanding mental health issues. After that, it will be closing arguments from both sides, and the case then will be handed to the jury. This could all happen as soon as Friday. Of course, we will be there in the courtroom covering every step, all testimonies, and we'll give you the latest on air, online on 19 News Plus, on the 19 News app, and at cleveland19.com. I'm Chris Fry in the 19 News Digital Center, and your coverage of Justice for Julian on this Thursday evening. Have a good evening.